You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, 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 and welcome out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast where two old friends get together and discuss horror, science fiction, movies, the influences they've had on us, and how they have influenced other genre pieces. My name is David. I'm here with my good friend Tim. Hey, Tim.
Hey, David. How is it going out there?
It is going. We just both want to say happy holidays to everybody. We want to say welcome back. If you are returning to listen to us, if you are a new listener or watcher on our YouTube channel, thank you for tuning in to us, and we hope you enjoyed the show and you'll tell all your friends and come back and do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. If you do listen to us on the podcast, we do have a YouTube channel, so you could go over there and actually see us if that's your preference, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on the YouTube channel, hey, the podcasts are great. You can take them with you. You don't have to hold your phone out. You can just listen to them in the car or while you're working or, whatever.
Technology.
Technology. It's amazing. And we're just expanding. This is our third season, and we're, in your face kind of thing. So,
Stop.
What have you been up to? What have you been doing since last we conversed?
Oh, well, you know me. I'm always diving into some form of a horror movie or another. And I've been on a bit of a Boris Karloff kick, and it has segued into something else. I told you back when we were covering Val Lewton that I watched The Body Snatcher, which had Boris Karloff in it. I recently tuned into another Todd Browning film called The Old Dark House, which is kind of a comedy horror, and it features a lot of folks besides Karloff. It features, I can't think of her name. Who's the lady that was in Titanic? The old
movie?
lady. Yeah. She was like a silent film actress that went all the way to James Cameron's Titanic, and then I think she died shortly after.
Yeah, they threw it overboard. I can't remember. No, I can't remember her name. Sorry.
Yeah, she's in it. Melvin Douglas is in it. Charles Lawton is in it. A lot of good folks. Sorry that I can't remember your name, lady. Anyway, Karloff.
But you were that special to me.
Karloff played another mute, disfigured character similar to the Frankenstein monster. A little scarier, had a big scar down the middle of his face. And I just thought it would be interesting to see. And you know what? I said Todd Browning, and I was mistaken. That it was James Whale. And the reason I brought it up is we know, both of us know from the podcast we did a couple seasons back, that James Whale and Karloff did not get along on the Frankenstein set. So I was curious to see how this movie turned out. And then I was flipping through Amazon Prime, and I saw Die Monster Die, which is a 60s AIP movie that I had never seen. Okay. So I thought, let's watch that. That sounds cool. I start watching it, and lo and behold, it is another adaptation of The Color Out of Space.
Oh.
So I had told you a few weeks back about watching The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. So I ended up watching this one, which was really bizarre and very AIP, you know what I mean, as far as American International Pictures. It looks like a Poe set or a Poe story because they did so many of them. And anyway, so I started thinking, how many adaptations have there been of The Color Out of Space? It seems like that may be Lovecraft's most adapted story. So I did a little research, and I stumbled across another adaptation that I watched that was filmed in Germany. It's called Diekarbe, Diekarbe, I think. But if you go onto Amazon, it is free with Prime, and they just call it The Color Out of Space, and it's a black and white tree icon is the picture for it. And it is a black and white film. It is very low budget. And I wanted to see it because somebody said that it was not only the best adaptation of the story, but the best adaptation of any Lovecraft ever. And I was like, well, that's pretty bold.
Okay.
And I can't disagree with them. It
really
had, yeah, it's pretty good as far as creating that sense of ominous dread and the cosmic horror without, you know, showing a lot, but just creating that really menacing, I don't know, fear.
And it's called Bicarbonate with a K.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, you can just look it up as The Color Out of Space. It's
okay.
not, I mean, if you look it up like that on IMDb, it'll come up as The Color Out of Space, even if you type in those German words. So,
okay.
So anyway, and it was 2005 is the year. If you're interested in checking it out, I highly recommend it.
Have you seen the what is it? Is it an AMC series or some kind of series on that's Lovecraft?
No, it's HBO.
HBO.
Yeah.
HBO Max or something. Yeah.
I haven't. Now I have read the book that series is based on, and it's very good. So I'm curious to see the HBO series, but I have not seen it yet.
Interesting. You just had a Lovecraftian, you know, journey there.
From Karloff to Lovecraft. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was a weird segue, cool. But yeah.
That's cool. I guess the only thing I've really done genre related to my genre is I'm really the trailer is dropped for, you know, Villeneuve, or you know, you pronounce it better than I.
Villeneuve,
yes.
Villeneuve.
Yes. He's great.
Yes,
you know
it's very sexy.
You know him personally. Anyway, he has done his version of Dune. And
oh, that's right.
So the trailer is out and looks phenomenal.
Okay.
And the trailer is worth it for everybody just because it has an all original version of a Pink Floyd song as their soundtrack. And it is awesome. It is really, really good.
What do you mean?
There's a Pink Floyd song in it that has, I don't think it's Welcome to the Machine. Trying to remember which one it is. But it's the underlying soundtrack for the entire trailer.
Interesting.
And it's a really good version. It's very haunting and slow and sung by vocals. And it's really nice. It's awesome.
Is it the original recording or someone else doing it?
No, it's someone else. It's a new version. It's Hans Zimmer, who normally does all the synth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He did this one as a special tribute. And it's really good because Aronofsky, if you remember, not Aronofsky, the other one, when we were doing Alien, remember that Dan O'Bannon came back from Spain where he was working with, I want to say Aronofsky. Maybe it is. Anyway, they were doing this big think tank because they were doing the version of Dune that he wanted to do. This is before David Lynch. And Lynch took some of his, but H.R. Giger and Dan O'Bannon both worked on that version of Dune.
A lot of people were involved with that before Lynch got it.
He had created this huge think tank of all these great artists all over the world, blah, 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 blah. But then they lost the funding and he couldn't do it. Well, he had approached both Waters and Gilmore at the time to do the entire soundtrack.
That's awesome.
So Villeneuve evidently knew the whole history, and part of his homage to that version and everything is using some Pink Floyd music in the soundtrack. But it's really good. It's really cool. I highly recommend it.
And you've read that book, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, I've never read it, but I know it's like a sci-fi landmark.
It is. It's a tome. And, you know, there would not be talk about, keys. There would never have been a Star Wars without Dune. If you read Dune, it's like, okay, so a young kid, desert planet, doesn't know his own destiny, has
Sand
to be,
people.
Goes against these evil the evil empire that is trying to take over the galaxy. And I was going, okay, so thanks, George. Yeah. Now, I have not read the other 8 or 6 or however
Right.
many they continued all that, but the first one I thought was really good.
Yeah, that's usually my rule. I always try to read the first one, and then if it really knocks me out, I'll go on, like with Interview with a Vampire. But a lot of books, I only read the first one.
Yeah. But like they show, part of the trailer, they show the whole scene, which is really great, when the Bene Gesserit arrives and she has the box and she's doing the test of Paul, and he has to put his hand in the box. And she goes, some people go mad, some people do this. She's giving all this thing, and he goes, well, what's in the box? And it just cuts to that shot of her, and it's really, intense, and holds, and she just goes, pain. And then it cuts, and I went, oh, yeah, Tim will like it now.
Okay, it sounds like Barker almost, like the Cenobites.
Yeah. I think the Cenobites are kind of, the Bene Gesserit, or that, and the stargazers, the actual guys humans that are mutated into the travelers, which is the only way they can navigate in space. Also, I read an article, it kind of inspired me to look into my Dune history, and I read a great essay that I thought was phenomenal that said that the whole thing about Herbert's novel that sets it apart from almost all other science fiction novels or anything else is there are no aliens in it. Even though it's the Harkonnens, the Atreides, all these families, it's a big political thriller, right? So it's very Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. That's the way Dune is. It's all these ruling families and how they rule the galaxy. And some of them are in charge of space travel. Some of them are in charge of all the industrial. Some of them are in charge of the agrarian. But their families rule, almost like a barony, almost like an English sort of a caste system. And so because they're on all these alien worlds, these alien planets, and there's this, science fiction technology, you think, oh God, that's an alien. That's it. No, they're not aliens. They're all humans who have expanded out into the galaxy, and then this is where they are, 10,000 years from now or 5,000 years from now.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the world.
Yeah. But
a lot of us came from nomadic tribes that just went from continent to continent when they were connected or whatever. If you believe in science,
right,
that is what happened.
If you believe in science, wear your masks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was very interesting because this whole essay was about, the thing about Dune that makes it so interesting is it's all about humans. It's not about aliens.
Well, and we've talked about, oh my God, here we are beating that door down again. What makes a good horror or science fiction story? It's the characters, not necessarily the threat or the monster. So
please.
Right.
Speaking of characters, oh wow.
Are
we going to talk some today?
Devil babies on the way.
Devil babies.
We're going to dive into a little bit of Satanism again this happy holiday season.
This happy holiday season. See the fire? Look.
Yes. I guess, should I go ahead and lead into our topic?
Yes, please.
All right. We are going to be talking today about 1968's Rosemary's Baby, which is directed. I don't know if you're going to sneeze or if you're just hiding because you're scared.
Both. And I was humming the song.
Oh. Okay. La 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 la. Roman Polanski is a controversial director. We'll get into that a bit, I'm sure. But this is also an iconic film. Lives in a lot of people's memories, especially people from that generation, seeing something like that on the screen for the first time. The story is about Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse, who are a young married couple that move into a somewhat iconic apartment building in New York City. Guy is a struggling actor. All of a sudden, Guy's career starts taking off, but odd things start happening with Rosemary, and she is pregnant. She gets pregnant, and she begins to start thinking that what she may have conceived is not human, and could in fact be the child of Satan, spawn of Satan. What 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 is your first impression of this movie, David? What do you remember? I mean, I guess, yeah. What would be your first impression when you saw it first, or your first memory?
I think my first memory of this was the poster, which may have even been the book cover as well. But the green with the silhouette of the baby carriage, and thinking, what could that be about, sort of thing. I think I saw it on I seem to remember seeing it in a theater, but it had to have been a re-release, of course, but I don't know if that's just my imagination or not, if that makes sense. I remember back then watching it thinking, this really isn't that scary. I don't know why this has lasted. And then rewatching it for the podcast, I was going, okay, it's just a well-crafted movie. Even if it isn't that scary, I'm not even sure if it would have been scary in the 60s. It may have been, I guess, maybe. But it was the imagery is very iconic in it, I think. I think a lot of credit goes to, Mia Farrow especially, to Levin's screenplay, and then to Polanski's direction. I say all the time that one of the things I love about Kubrick is no matter what film he does, he puts images in front of your eyes that you can't forget.
Right.
Whether it's, Full Metal Jacket and its warfare, or The Shining, or even
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon. This was before 2001. And yet there are iconic images in this, not just the last scene, which everybody remembers, but just some iconic shots in it, from the way the dream rape thing is done to certain shots with Cassavetes and Mia Farrow, and it's just he's very well structured, I thought. I do think it bogs down a little bit in the beginning. It takes forever to me to kind of get started, I think. But once it goes into what I call the Ira 11, once somebody, Ira 11 was big on, let's give the mystery, and the whole audience knows it, but the cast doesn't. So now we're rooting for them to figure it out. We've already figured it out. Why can't you see this? Very Hitchcock kind of feel,
Actually, Roman wrote the screenplay. Ira wrote the book.
Right.
So Roman changed a few things, like the neighbors. What's their name? Castevetes. One of them's name's Roman, which I don't think is coincident. But I mean, she could have been. He could have been Roman in the book. I don't know. I haven't read the book.
I also have in my notes that I remembered this movie again in black and white.
Oh, that's funny.
So maybe the first time I saw it wasn't in a theater. Maybe it was like with a black and white television set. Yeah. And maybe I saw an edited version or whatever.
That's where I was leading. My mother would never have let me see this movie or The Exorcist, and because horror movies are one thing, but devil movies were a whole other ballgame.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw this and I saw The Exorcist when they were edited for television and aired as like a Monday night movie or whatever.
Okay.
On ABC.
Probably ABC. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't remember that much being cut. I'm sure some of the rape scene was cut because it's mostly implied anyway. There's no real nudity that I remember.
Yeah, she has one nude shot.
There's one scene where they mess around on the apartment floor before they have furniture too, I think, where they get naked, don't they?
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of a different movie? Okay.
No, that's it.
Okay. But anyway, that was my first impression, is finally getting to see it, knowing I wanted to see it and finally getting to see the edited version, same as Exorcist.
Right.
Do you remember the tagline?
The tagline? No.
Pray for Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, please do, because
it's the devil.
It's the devil, baby.
There is, it's funny that you said that you thought this movie, you associate this movie with being black and white. There's another thing out there where people believe that Alfred Hitchcock did this movie. I thought that was funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like a Mandela effect one?
And apparently he was offered the chance, but or that he was also offered the chance, but that it's all been proved as false, that he was never even approached to do this movie. Which is kind of a shame because, what did he go do next? Family Plot, which was not that great. Yeah.
Yep.
So this, as far as Polanski, is considered loosely part of a trilogy of what they call urban horror movies, which also would include Repulsion. And The Tenant, which I have not seen. And I have not seen Repulsion in a long time. That should be on our list, though.
I remember, and I think Joe mentioned this to me once, too, that one of the things that always made Polanski work was he's really good, and even did it later on in the action movie, I think, with Harrison Ford. Cannot remember it right now. But
something in Paris.
Yeah, it was something, because they filmed it where he was.
France. I know what you're talking about.
But
that makes sense because he lives in Paris.
He's really good at making his characters isolated and making them feel alone in an urban setting. And I think he definitely does it in Repulsion, but I think this is his best version of it. We feel so sorry and empathetic to Rosemary because she really, she's doomed from the very beginning. She doesn't have, she just is slowly cut off and cut off and cut off from everything around her.
Right. Yeah, I've read where Mia Farrow is not a fan because she feels like Rosemary was walked all over her, and she feels like as a woman that was a disservice she played in that by doing this film. However, this film is what put her on the map. She was only known for Peyton Place, a soap opera at the time,
right,
and being married to Frank Sinatra. So this was basically the movie that put her and Roman Polanski, I think, on the map.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I would
for
definitely
sure
say so. And it's it's her performance. She's really, really good in this. It's hard.
I think everybody's good in it, though.
Well, I think, okay, I know you'll get into casting, but to me, I think Cassavetes is a bit miscast in that I think he's great. And I've always liked him and everything he's done. I think he's a very strong actor. However, I don't ever trust him in this movie.
No.
I always think Guy's a bad guy.
Right.
And so there's no twist at the end when Guy turns out to be a bad guy.
Totally agree. And when we get into casting, there's other issues with that and other actors too.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's funny. But I love Ruth Gordon in it, and we'll get to her as well. And she won an Oscar. She's fabulous as Minnie Castevet. she is such the non-stereotypical villain. If there's such a word, I don't know if you know what I'm saying. You would never cast that type of mannerism as a villain.
That was going to be my question to you, is from a thematic. So why is this movie so highly regarded in the horror world? Because it's really not that scary. It broadcasts its entire story from the poster, kind of thing. So we know the story, and there's really not any jump scares or...
Well, honestly, you don't know it from the poster. You just know that it's about Rosemary's Baby. You don't know that it's the devil. If I had to, and this is going to show my horror nerdiness, if I had to credit the success of this movie, it would be almost remember how we used to talk about the Robert Bloch endings? How they would always have a twist, a surprise twist. I think this was a surprise twist to American audiences at the time. They had never seen anything like this. They were waiting for a happy ending, and all of a sudden, guess what? This isn't a happy ending at all.
So then I would have to ask, is the twist the fact that what we all thought was real, meaning she was raped by the devil and this is his baby, is true, or the fact that at the very, 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 very end she accepts it? Is that the twist? What do you mean by the twist, in your opinion?
I think the twist is that it's a downbeat ending. It's not a happy ending.
Right.
Most America in 1968 were not used to seeing movies that didn't end happily. So it ends dark.
Right.
As far as that ending was, they filmed, I think I'll have to get into my notes. They filmed multiple endings for this, but I think that was Polanski's choice. The book, I think Levin has her go on to raise the baby and take it to the Vatican and let them deal with it or something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway.
Okay.
Levin he was a popular novelist, but he was also known as a conspiratorial novelist. Like all of his books dealt with conspiracies. Rosemary's Baby dealt with, a woman having the spawn of Satan. Stepford Wives was about a town where all the women were robots. And then he did The Boys from Brazil, which was a conspiracy that the Nazis were, he was known for that kind of thing. And may have been a typecast as a result, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But back to your original question, I think what I meant by twist is that I think people expected it to end happily, either her to cure the baby or the baby to not be the devil, or it was all in her imagination, or, you know what I'm saying? And it didn't.
Or even grab the baby and jump out the window, something.
Right. Instead, you have her pick up a baby, and there's clearly an upside down cross hanging above it as a little mobile or whatever, mobile. And she says, after all, it's half me or whatever, or at least that's implied.
Right.
So
we never see the baby. We never see the baby.
We don't.
Okay.
No, we do see the eyes.
Okay, that's. But we see he has his father's eyes.
She says he has his father's eyes, and we see the eyes in the rape scene, and they're vertical slits for pupils.
But we don't see them in the baby, and we're not seeing like the "It's Alive" sort of.
No.
We never see that. That's why I thought. That's why I remember.
I'm not even sure if you see that baby and It's Alive. Do you? I know you see it in the sequels, but I can't. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
I don't think so. If you do, I think you just see like the claw.
You see the claws. Yeah.
Something, The claw.
What a segue. One thing I did want to bring up is this was also a bid for respectability for our favorite schlockmeister, William Castle, who was known for gimmicks. Doing the tingler and electrifying seats in theaters and, handing out barf bags for horror movies or I can't remember what he did for The Haunting of Hill House. Anyway, he had always been a schlocky director, but he produced this film. It was kind of cool to see his name up there on the screen with what you would call a legitimate motion picture. So it was not only Polanski's bid for stardom, it was Mia Farrow's and William Castle, at least a bid for respectability. Did you know that the original cut, you're going to love this, ran over 4 hours?
How? What would possibly be?
Well, there is a scene, I don't know a lot of it, and obviously he let Sam Osteen decide. I guess that's the editor. But one of the scenes that was cut was some random scene of Van Johnson and Joan Crawford coming out of a movie, and they just kind of went up to them and let them play themselves. I guess they just ran. Because, a lot of people are in that area of New York where they film. The Dakota building where they filmed, a lot of people lived in that building. It's where John Lennon lived. He was shot in front of it. Boris Karloff lived in that building. Lauren Bacall lived in that building. A lot of famous people were around that neighborhood. And I think Roman just took advantage of it. And he was guerrilla filmmaking on the street. You saw that scene where she's crossing traffic That's him with the camera. He basically said, look, you're pregnant. No one's going to hit you. Just go out there and I'll film it. And no other cameraman would do it. He had to do it because they're in New York traffic, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to admire him for things like that, except for maybe endangering Mia Farrow's life. I'm sure. Frank Sinatra served her divorce papers on the set, so it wouldn't have been like he cared. But anyway, that's a little bit of trivia for you as well.
There you go. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or scenes that came out or stick out with you before we move on to casting?
Scenes. Well, overall, let me just glance at the notes to see if I have anything. But I know scenes. I think I loved the scene meeting the girl in the laundry room basement, and the fact that the building is scary and kind of creepy. But then I think her death was very gratuitous and really I didn't see it advancing anything other than, oh, well, that was unexpected, sort of thing. Of course, I love the ending. I like the whole dream nightmare rape sequence is great. I love the whole pacing of her getting out. You know, of her finally going to the other doctor, and I'm going to get away. And I now
that fucking Charles Grodin asshole. Yeah.
Not the Charles Grodin, such a funny guy. Look at him.
He's a dick.
But I thought that was good. Of course, I like all the scenes with Ruth Gordon. She's great, and that character, it works so well. Mia Farrow works so well.
You know what scene sticks out the most to me with Ruth Gordon? It's the one where they're over at Minnie and Roman's house having dinner, and she is serving them with the fork she's eating with. She's like just eating and putting stuff on their plates and stuff. I'm like, she's like an animal. It's crazy.
Dripping on the carpet. Why are you dripping on the carpet? Yeah. The theme song is another plus for me for this.
Did you know that that was actually Mia Farrow that sang that?
I did see that and thought, okay, that works for me. That works. Although I do have to say, and this did not happen, 30 plus years ago when I saw the movie originally, but there were so many scenes in this where she looked like Gwyneth Paltrow to me. A lot. In just a lot of her expressions. Her facial structure is very similar. And parts of it really pulled me out and bugged me because I was going,
Dennis watched part of it with me. We thought the same, only with Michelle Williams, because Michelle Williams actually had that haircut too.
Okay, I can see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see Gwyneth too, for sure.
A lot, yeah. But that's basically it. I mean, I've got some more structural stuff as far as just some details that jumped out to me, like trivia stuff when I was watching it.
Okay.
But we can get to that.
Okay. Well, let's start with Rosemary herself. Rosemary Woodhouse was played by Mia Farrow. Mia has had a little bit of a history with troubled directors, I would say.
Good way of putting it.
This is the movie that put her on the map. And of course, Roman Polanski lives in Europe now because of a statutory rape case in about 1969 or 70, wasn't it? When was it? It was sometime, I guess, after Chinatown. Yep. Anyway, so Roman has a
little bit of a quaalude. Oh my gosh, it's the 70s. Come on.
And then she was also partnered with Woody Allen, and he ended up having an affair with one of their adopted children, to whom he is still with, Soon Yi Allen. I don't know what her last name is. So Mia Farrow has had her a share of bad dudes, other than Guy Woodhouse, her husband in this movie.
Yeah.
I will say that Patty Duke auditioned for this role. I think she would have been a good choice as well.
Yeah,
just because she had especially. She had that innocence to her, and she was probably trying to break out of that. I thought that was kind of cool. He originally wanted Tuesday Weld. She passed.
I don't think she would have the chops to do it, but she would have looked pretty, but I don't think she would have.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't go on to do anything else that memorable that I recall.
No.
So, Jane Fonda was approached, which I found very interesting, but she turned it down for Barbarella, which we were just talking about.
Yes, we were.
And then Sharon Tate obviously was considered, but Roman felt that was unethical because they were dating at the time.
She would have been good, I think. Yeah.
I think she would have gone on to be a good actress had she not been murdered by Charles Manson.
Totally.
Which and a lot of that stuff that happened in '69, right? So that stuff that happened shortly after this movie came out.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of that's another reason why this movie is probably iconic. It's because of the period of time it came out. Because it was a big horror movie in a time where a lot of shit went down in the late 60s.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right after the Summer of Love. So, others considered were Julie Christie, Elizabeth Hartman, and Joanna Pettit. The last two are British. I know them vaguely. Julie, actually, I'm sorry. The last three, Julie Christie's British too, isn't she?
Yeah.
So all three of them are British. So they would have been a little bit more unknown, perhaps, to American audiences. But I have to say, I'm quite satisfied with Mia Farrow's performance in this movie. I think she's great.
I do too. I think she's great in this movie.
All right. The one that we weren't...
And I just did a cursory look real quick before you jump to the next one is... because you were talking about at this time, and it seemed like at this time, 68 through 70, 71, in that area, horror movies didn't know where they were going. They didn't have any monsters and iconic monsters they could play with anymore.
Well,
Hammer was trying.
Night of the Living Dead was 68. Yeah.
So you had the birth of that, which was the zombie, and then everything seemed to be going more toward satanic horror.
A lot in the 70s, especially.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at titles and ghost stories, Haunted House of Horror, The Oblong Box, Satan Sadist, Scream Baby Scream, Fear No Evil. So a lot of it was going toward this kind of...
I remember that Fear No Evil movie. I think it was Canadian. It was a good one.
Yeah. But toward that existential horror coming at us sort of thing, rather than... there's a monster, there's a Frankenstein on the loose.
Right. They were expanding the tropes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Guy Woodhouse, who we're not that crazy. I mean, I thought John Cassavetes was good too. He's more known for being a director. As a matter of fact, he's like the godfather of independent filmmaking. He's the one that kind of put small films on the map. But he did star in a few. He was in this. He was in The Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
He was married to Gina Rowlands, directed her in an indie movie, and she won an Oscar for it. He directed some other lady in a movie, and she won an Oscar too. So, I mean, he's got a pretty good pedigree as far as direction.
Well, he came from theater too, which is what makes him, I think, a really good actor. He came from theater and did a lot of theater for television. A lot of the Kraft Playhouse and, a lot of those back then in the late 50s when they were doing a lot of theater on television. Sort of.
And his son, Nick, is a director too, right?
Nick Cassavetes, yeah.
Jack Nicholson was suggested for this role, but guess why he didn't get it?
Little Shop of Horrors.
No, he was deemed too sinister, which is what
Cassavetes wasn't?
What's funny, though, is think about it. That's what Stephen King has always said about him in The Shining, is that he's going to be bad from the very beginning.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting. But he did, I guess, become friends with Roman and went on to do Chinatown, which was huge, and also was at Jack Nicholson's house where that whole incident happened that got Roman to Europe and never back in the States again with the young lady.
A little hot tub. Come on.
Robert Evans was a producer on this movie. He's a relatively famous producer, and he wanted Robert Redford And I thought, you know what? That would have been good casting.
That would have been good casting.
And the negotiations apparently broke down because Paramount's lawyers served the actor with a subpoena over a contractual dispute regarding his pulling out of some movie I've never heard called Blue. So that kind of nixed Redford being in this film. It was an issue with Paramount and lawyers. Also considered Richard Chamberlain, who at times I thought was Satan himself.
Yes, true.
He actually played a priest in The Thornbirds. My mother
The Thornbirds. Oh my God.
That movie. Ugh.
Yes.
Anyway, Richard Chamberlain did not get it. Also considered were two actors I don't know, James Fox and Lawrence Harvey. Actually, they weren't considered. They begged to do it. That's why I haven't heard of them, because they couldn't get a job. And then Warren Beatty turned it down. I'm not sure.
It would have been good too. I could see that. I could see him do. I think the idea of somebody, Redford would have been perfect because everybody trusted him, liked him. He's handsome, he's nice, and then turns out to be the bad guy. You know, it's like, what was the Harrison Ford one?
Frantic. I just thought of it. No, but
that's
the Roman Polanski
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another Harrison Ford, like See No Evil or Evil Below Us, Below the Surface, Down Below, something.
The one with Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yes.
What Lies Beneath.
What Lies Beneath. And he's Harrison Ford until like near the end you realize, oh my God, he's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was the effect we could have gotten had
with Redford.
With Redford.
Or Beatty, maybe. Yeah. Another person tested. This will not surprise you at all. He went on to fame and fortune 4 years later, but it was probably a little too early, and that was Burt Reynolds. He was doing a lot of TV in the 60s. He did, Alfred Hitchcock, Twilight Zone, Westerns like maybe Cheyenne. I can't remember what it was, but I've seen them too. As far as casting, that's pretty much it as far as alternatives. I will go through the cast really quickly, though. We talked about Minnie Castevet being played by Ruth Gordon, who is fabulous. Roman Castevet was played by Sidney Blackmer.
He was really good, too.
I thought so, too. There was a suggestion. I did not write it down because none of us are going to know them. But apparently, I think it was Castevet. You said he was in the theater world. There was an old vaudevillian couple that he wanted to get cast in this, but nobody knew who they were, including me. So I'm quite glad they got Ruth Gordon instead.
Yes.
Hutch is another great cast member, Maurice Evans, whom I love. Maurice was known for playing Samantha Evans' father on Bewitched and Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas! Dr. Zayas.
On Planet of
What
the
will
Apes.
you find?
Yes. So we have, and he's a good guy in this one, which is nice.
His destiny. Yeah.
Dr. Saperstein is played by Ralph Bellamy. There's another key for you right there. He went on to be in Ghost Story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Classic actor.
With Melvin Douglas, who I mentioned earlier in The Old Dark House. They were both in Ghost Story with Fred Astaire. Wow. That's a lot of freaking casting keys. Terry was played by Victoria Vetri, and I read not many other roles for her. She didn't do a lot. Laura Louise was Patsy Kelly, and then and we mentioned Charles Grodin was
Dr. Hill. Yes, it was Grodin. Yes,
but the one other I want to mention, because it's a slight key to our Patreon podcast on Star Trek, is Mr. Nicholas was played by Elisha Cook Jr. From Star Trek's Court Martial, which we talked about.
From the one with Red Jack. He's in that too.
Another Star Trek?
Yeah.
Well, that's okay, because he's also in Messiah of Evil, and he played Weasel in the original Salem's Lot miniseries. So,
there you go.
So Elisha Cook Jr., very recognizable character actor, played Mr. Nicholas, one of the Satanists.
Yes. Oh no, I'm getting him confused with because Elisha Cook was he was one of the worshipers kind of thing, but the realtor.
No, Elisha Cook was the defender, wasn't he? Wasn't he the lawyer?
Yeah, but I mean he was one of the Satanists in Rosemary.
Right. He was one of the neighbors, I think.
Yeah, the one that I'm talking about was the realtor that showed him the apartment at the very beginning was Rejak from Wolf in the Fold, the episode where Jack the Ripper has lived through the galaxy.
Yeah, it's Robert Bloch, who we were just talking about earlier.
Yeah, so there's some keys references there. Look at that noise.
Sort of a weird Christmas paradox we're finding ourselves in here today. Or should I say late November paradox. I mentioned that Ruth Gordon is serving with the fork she's eating with. Another thing that stuck out to me as far as scenes that I love is the music with the labor scene. When she's going into labor, it's this really erratic jazz music that sounds like Miles Davis, blasting trumpets and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that was very unique. That really stuck out with me. That's all I have for casting. I can go to awards, or we can
go back to your keys.
Okay. This movie was an Oscar. Excuse me. Sorry, got segued there because there was something I just remembered I wanted to say about the Oscars. It was an Oscar winner for supporting actress, Ruth Gordon. It was nominated for screenplay. It won a Golden Globe for supporting actress, yet again, Ruth Gordon. And it was a nominee for actress with Mia Farrow, screenplay, and score. So it was nominated for 4 Golden Globes, won 1, 2 Oscars, won 1. Mia was also nominated for a BAFTA. So what I was going to get to is, I did not realize this. You may remember this, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to misquote it. Despite winning the David D. Donatello Award for Best Foreign Actress and the Fotogramas de Plata Award for Best Foreign Movie Performer, and also being nominated for Best Actress at the Laurel Awards, the Golden Globes, and the BAFTAs, Mia Farrow was not nominated for an Oscar for her performance. And today, this is considered one of the most notorious Oscar snubs. Did you know that?
I did not know that, no.
I didn't either. I found it fascinating, though, because she was nominated for those others and won one of them.
And she should have been nominated for this. I wonder who won that year. Huh.
Was that maybe Bonnie and Clyde?
Oh, God, no, please. Really?
I don't know. I'm just thinking 68. I don't know. It was Barbara from Night of the Living Dead.
No.
Johnny has the keys. Okay, so I will also let you know that it is in the book. What book is that, David?
The 1001.
Yes, the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Well, Satan has made the list.
Oh, the winner was Katharine Hepburn for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Oh, I figured it was African Queen. Okay.
That's who won that year. But she beat out Faye Dunaway and Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh. Hey.
You were good there. Gotta admit, that's good. That's some good stuff.
And I was only 3.
So I had a horror question based on my notes. Was this the first, oh my God, I've been raped by the devil movie?
Was there a rape scene in Curse of the Demon? I can't remember.
No, wait. How could it be? No, there wasn't a rape scene.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think so. But it was the first of several satanic children movies. and I'll get to that in just a second. Actually, here it is right here. This movie begins a tradition of horrific pregnancy scenes, including Alien, The Brood, The Fly, Prometheus, It's Alive, and The Quiet Place, or A Quiet Place. Is that what that movie is? Yeah, Quiet Place.
And half of those we have done on this podcast.
A lot of them we have. And that was actually about pregnancy, not satanic babies. There was a lot of satanic children after that, too.
Well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Definitely.
Because we had all the Omen movies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other, I don't know, trivia or keys? Or do you want to go into keys? I have several, actually.
Yeah, we can do keys. I mean, I had, of course, some of the ones that I guess they're keys. They're not really references, not really keys, but they're references. So, like, her dream on the yacht was like she was Jacqueline Onassis, or she was with the Kennedys or something. It was just a really weird dream, and I was going, is this supposed to be like sort of funny or sort of not, or what are they making fun of? You know, it was very unique in that. I thought that was a weird reference.
Well, you brought up something earlier. You said that you thought Roman Polanski was known for isolating characters.
Yes.
I think Roman being someone to always bring comedy to something. I always find funny things in his movies.
Agreed.
In this one, it's Ruth Gordon, obviously.
But he uses his comedy as realistic comedy. It either comes to the character or it comes from a situation that is comedy, but it's not like Wit and Perry repartee kind of comedy. You know what I mean? It's realistic to me in the way he portrays it.
Right. Well, and that whole yacht scene dream thing kind of struck me as funny too, or definitely odd.
And like the other one, there's definitely a key in the first sequence because, it pans up from her starting to dream and suddenly we see the Sistine Chapel and everything. So now we know there's going to be some kind of religious allegory that happens, which I thought was interesting. I have a key in that right after the rape scene, they talk about going to see a play and they went and saw the Fantastics.
That's it. That's the scene where they run into Joan Crawford and Van Johnson. It's out in front of the marquee and it says the Fantastics.
Okay. Well, I thought it was interesting because, the big controversy about the Fantastics is the big song about rape.
Oh,
and I think that was kind of an interesting, if I had not, done and seen the Fantastics, I would not have, connected that.
I've not done it, but I saw your production of it.
Really?
I do remember it.
So that was one of my keys. You go ahead and do something, and then I'll submit.
Sorry, I got lost in my trivia. I mentioned that the La 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 song was sung by Mia Farrow, but it reminded me of that weird children singing stuff we later see in Argento's Deep Red, 1975.
I could see that.
Which would have been 7 years later. So.
Okay.
Also, Rosemary's name is a reference to Mary, mother of Jesus.
Rosemary, yeah, that makes sense.
So,
I have one that maybe you can help me with.
Okay.
She, when she's drinking the milkshake and she's losing weight, she's freaking out. She's got that great makeup with the hollow, sunken, she's losing weight kind of thing.
Yeah, she looks rough, man.
Yeah, I love the makeup because it looks realistic too. It's a really good job. She, at one point, eats a raw steak.
Yeah.
And as soon as she did it, I thought, okay, there was a TV movie with Elizabeth McGovern having a demon baby.
Are you talking about Elizabeth Montgomery?
Elizabeth Montgomery having a demon baby or an alien baby or something, and she eats raw steak.
I don't remember that. Movie. I remember her playing Lizzie Borden, though.
Yeah, but this was I think before that. But she played a woman who had been impregnated, and I think it was Alien because this was in the 70s. So I think it was an alien, but she was eating raw steak. And as soon as I saw that, I was going, okay, that's a key reference. I have to ask Tim about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a huge literary key with this and Nathaniel Hawthorne's Young Goodman Brown. Are you familiar with that story?
I've heard the title, but not really read it.
It's one of those that sometimes you'll read it in high school, but if you're an English major, you're definitely going to read it in college. It's like an American literary classic.
Right.
And it involves, Nathaniel Hawthorne was from Salem, Massachusetts. So a lot of his stuff was influenced by what was going on or what went on there with the witches. Yes. Witches. And Young Goodman Brown sees a community differently through like a funhouse mirror where you see them as their good selves and you see them as their bad selves. Very similar to this with the neighbors in the apartment building. And there's also a big orgy in both that plays prominent. There's just lots of parallels. So if anyone out there, I'm a huge Nathaniel Hawthorne fan. He wrote some really cool, scary short stories. I highly recommend it. So go read Young Goodman Brown and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one.
I've got Tannis Root. I'm sorry. As soon as they said Tannis, I'm thinking mummy. I'm thinking, rituals. I'm thinking.
And there is no such thing, right?
Yeah, but it's so
it's made
associated. It's so associated with the whole mummy myth, that immediately made me suspect. But
I didn't even think about that.
I like Hutch in every scene he's in. I think Maurice Evans is really good. I think his chemistry with her is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I like, whether it's Roman or Ira, because I've never read the novel, so I can't say.
Me either.
But the way they do the puzzle all the way through it, of losing a personal article, the necklace, the anagram, all of that puzzle work all the way through, I thought was really good.
Yeah, it's got like a little voodoo twist to it as well.
Yeah.
Like a witchcraft voodoo kind of thing. Yeah. I have another literary clue, surprise, surprise.
Sure.
Arthur Machen wrote a story. It's actually a classic story called The Great God Pan. Very similar story where the character is impregnated by Pan. And in this one, the character is impregnated by Satan. So a little parallel going on there as well.
Okay.
With that classic. I believe that was 1890. Nathaniel Hawthorne may have been a little bit. I can't remember when that story of Nathaniel Hawthorne's came out. Anyway, they're both old. I told you about the conspiracy stuff with Hour 11. I've already mentioned that. Mia Farrow went on to play a nanny to Devil Child in the remake of The Omen in 2006.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess she needed some work. That movie was released on June 6th of 2006, 666. And in this movie, the baby is to be born in June of 66. Isn't it set in 67? Yeah. So there's 3 6s there too. So you see the 666 start playing a lot after this movie in movies like The Omen as well. So that would be a key, just the number itself, for sure. I wrote a novel called Son of Rosemary.
There you go.
1997. I guess he needed some money too. So I only have one other clue that I don't want to go into too deeply because you have not seen it. And I strongly feel we will probably cover this next season because it is such a renowned movie. The movie Hereditary by Ari Aster has keys out the wazoo in it. And there are some big ones from Rosemary's Baby in it as well. So
cool. I do want to see it, and that would be a good one for us to definitely add to the list. I agree. I wanted to say, as far as a horror movie goes, the last sequence in this works really well. From the elevator chase up through the hearing the chanting up through the seeing the baby, you know, little things that he does are really good, like all this frenetic music with the elevator and everything, and then suddenly when she does the big confrontation with all of them, there is no music at all at the end of this movie. And I thought that was really cool.
It's disturbing. Yeah.
I thought spitting in his face was great. I thought her with the knife reaching out and stopping the crib from moving with the knife, I thought was really just a great touch.
Mm-hmm. It's like something you do on stage.
Yeah, and then of course the stuff of what have you done to his eyes? He has his father's eyes, and everybody's doing Hail Satan, and blah, blah, blah. I was just going, oh, see, now that I think was maybe for 68 audiences was terrifying.
Exactly.
Know? The fact that our old wealthy neighbors are actually Satanists, you know.
Well, and I'm not sure, but there was
Republicans are Satanists. What?
No. Republicans in the Dakota building? I don't think so.
Never.
I don't know what I don't know the exact time period, but there was a period in the late 60s, early 70s where satanic cults were like a huge fear. I'm sure it started with rumors. It could have started with a murder that I'm unaware of. Even the Manson murders played into it. So having that at the end of this movie, I mean, maybe it was this movie that started all that. I don't know.
Might have.
But something resonated with people in the end of this movie, because this movie was huge and people freaked out. Just like The Exorcist. People freaked out with The Exorcist too.
Well, I don't think The Exorcist would have had as much clout or gotten as much without this movie. I think that's a good key, actually, too. I think this movie probably may have started that surge of fear of the cults, you know, fear that the nice, sweet people next door are really evil, you know, Satan worshipers.
Right. And I've got some other movies that are devil related this season, and one of them is actually the very same year, 1968.
Yeah. Well, we've had we've had some interesting crossover this season. It might be neat to do a recap at the end of the season and just how all of these keys related to each other, kind of.
Oh wow, like a key episode based on just the schedule. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
A big key ring kind of thing because they all relate, you know, so much. Yeah. Right. We've done 2 Polanskis. We've done, you know, blah blah blah. This many baby movies or whatever. Yeah.
I had one other thing I was going to say.
Stop talking. There's a demon in my throat.
At the end of the novel, she considers killing him and committing suicide, but then like Terry at the beginning of the novel under similar, very much like Terry did in the movie at the beginning. She then takes pity on him, seeing the terrified look on the child's face. After considering all options, she decides to raise Andy as her own, even though he's a demon. She decides to love him and mother him and let her good-natured human personality influence him, hoping to do good. He's half devil and half me. She also decides to report everything to the Pope and the Vatican and to let them handle the issue as they see fit. So,
sure.
Yeah, whatever. That's not what I wanted to tell you. This is what I found very funny, though. This is Mia Farrow. I'm going to read this. Mia Farrow said in a recent interview that the actor playing the devil, Clay Tanner, was completely naked during the rape scene, dressed up in demonic makeup with vertical contact lenses. She said Tanner spent hours grinding on top of her as they were shooting the rape scene. After they were done, he got up, shook Mia's hand, and in a very cordial and businessman-type way said, "Miss Farrow, it was a pleasure working with you." Mia shook his hand back and said, "Thank you. He was a very lovely man," she said.
Sure.
The devil was on top of me, raping me, but he was a very lovely man.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, we got a pot for you. I need you to grind on Mia Farrow.
Isn't that great, though? I mean, that just shows you the behind the scenes of what happens. You know, we know this movie for what it is. This is the kind of thing Mia Farrow remembers. I just think that's hilarious.
Right. That's great.
So, any final thoughts on this devil baby?
I think it deserves its iconic place as one of the great horror movies of definitely of devil babies, but just of the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. It's a landmark.
Yeah, sure. It is.
And wasn't 2001 68 too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So
that was a sci-fi landmark too.
Talk about, opposite polar ends of the world. Yeah. Even though that one has a baby at the end of it too.
Right.
Ooh, star baby.
It's a key.
So, yeah. Well, cool. All of you out there listening and or watching, we want to say thank you, of course, as always.
For joining us in our Devil Christmas.
Devil Christmas, yes.
Actually, it's not over. We have 2 more before Christmas.
We have 2 more Christmas presents for you before the holidays, and we just want to say thank you, guys. We would ask that you give us a good review, or give us a star, or give us a thumbs up, or
subscribe on YouTube.
Please subscribe on YouTube. If you want to consider being a Patreon member, we would love to have you. Patreon members get some extra special perks. So we hope you enjoy that. And Tim, for you, I guess I'll see you next time when we go in a little bit more science fiction-y realm.
I think so. And I want to tell you, I have enjoyed your fireplace and your Christmas tree. It's been quite warm and cozy in here.
Lovely. Yeah. So, but we'll see you all next time.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.